What up, Sai? How's it going? All right, so everybody, I'm here with Rexy Dorado, creator or co-creator of Maharlika, the writer of Maharlika. Rexy was also the person that indirectly, I guess, indirectly and directly started Hot Tropiks because Rexy was the one that got me into Filipino comics, and he started us down this path. Like, how did you get into
Yeah,
Filipino
yeah,
comics? Like, how did you discover it? Why don't you give us a little bit of your origin story?
yeah. So I mean, I grew up. I was born in Dumaguete. I lived there for 10 years, and when I was here, I read a lot of like Marvel, DC stuff, and like Asterix and Obelisk. But I also read Pugad Baboy, I think. So that was like my first introduction into Filipino comics. Like read a lot of Pugad Baboy. And then I went to the US and kind of just like didn't read comics at all for a while, right? Like I got more into like Stephen King books, like more like James Ellroy, Raymond Chandler type of crime books, horror stuff. And then in college started getting more into anime. Neon Genesis Evangelion was like my like first like whoa moment in terms of the kind of animated medium, how much emotional impact it could have. And then I watched Attack on Titan, and that was when I was like, okay, it was season 4, part 1 or part 2, and I was starting to get spoilers on my Facebook feed, and I decided I'm just gonna finish. I think the last chapters are coming out, so I was just gonna jump in and finish the comics before I get spoiled. So I got back into kind of the comics as a medium there. Um, uh, and I discovered Trese kind of around that time also. I was kind of asking myself of, I've been kind of writing here and there since I was 8 or 9 or 10 years old. Always wanted to kind of create stories in the science fiction and fantasy genre. Um, I had this image in my head of like I wanted to do an animated series, but also realized how big of an investment that would be, right? And how many kind of gatekeepers you would have to kind of get to agree to give you the permission to build a story, and so started Component on Comics as a place where you can create these worlds and these uh kind of fantastic worlds, right? With a vision and with just a team of, in my case, like 2 people because I can't draw. So I started exploring like what does Filipino comics look like, and I got into Trese. Also around the time, a little bit before the Trese animation came out, but we knew that it was in the horizon, and just fell in love with it. Started to look at more books like Arnold Ares stuff. Um, what else was I? Not comics, but I also read Tablay by Kat Olan in terms of like, more uh like Filipino science fiction with a bit more kind of pop anime kind of sensibility. And just from all of that, saw like, okay, like this is something that I feel like I can do, or would like to step into and join this community in building. And yeah, and so that was also I think I don't know what, like year 4 or 5 of Kumu, and also going into like post-pandemic and looking at what, if a lot less people are live streaming, like how do we expand into other parts of Filipino entertainment media and kind of double down that vision of supporting Filipino creators. Um, yeah, and I think Angelo, I don't know how it started, but I realized you were into comics, more on the Western comics, Image Comics kind of stuff that I didn't
More
get
of the
as much
graphic
visibility
novels.
into. Yeah,
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 I was
more the
more into
graphic
the
novels.
yeah.
And so we started just exchanging recommendations, and I was like, check out Trese, uh, and then I started reading some of the image stuff that the graphic novel that you recommended. We had a podcast on Kumu that was talking about with Julia,
Yeah.
where we were talking about just was it science fiction and fantasy kind of stories in different mediums.
Yeah.
Um, and then we made Quento Monster, which is our anthology, where Maharlika's first 2 chapters were in there, Angelo's first chapter of Amboys was in there, 8 other stories, and that was kind of the first thing that we published in the comics realm. So long story, but that was the kind of just big full
Okay.
circle.
So what was the big inspiration though for actually the Maharlika storyline? Like how did that come
Mm.
about?
That one was I think in high school I got really into film. Like watching a lot of a lot. I was getting into a lot of film and TV, and on the TV side, it was like a lot of HBO stuff. On the film side, it was a lot of Criterion stuff. And I don't know why it was like a dystopian sci-fi story that I wanted to do, but there was like a story that I'd like outline here and there. I'd write a few pages of in a TV script form. Never really took anywhere, but it was like there in the back of my mind for a long time. And some of the ingredients of that kind of carried over into Maharlika. I think a lot of the main themes, um, especially on the kind of political and the kind of political dynamics and that half of the story kind of carried over, but weren't Filipino at the time. But just like stayed with me for a decade or more after that. And then when I started coming back to the Philippines, a lot of it was this sense of, you know, I came from the Philippines for a while. I was for like in the 15 years I was in the U.S. I was not very in touch with the Philippines. I was kind of trying to fit in the U.S. and trying to distance myself a bit from where I came from. And so there was this chapter in my life where the Philippines was like the past, right? And then I started to spend more time. I had a nonprofit for about 5 years that we would bring people back in the Philippines for these 3-month fellowships, um, working with leaders here in the Philippines, and a lot of that was about shifting that framework to the Philippines as this place where there is a future being built, and there's a lot of exciting stuff and growth happening, and kind of Filipino futurism in some way. Um, and so I think the world of Maharlika kind of came initially like from that and like imagining that as as its own world. Um, at the same time, when I was in college, I was yeah, I studied economics. A lot of it was in international development, and like a lot of my slice of that I explored was a lot of really how at the end of the day, a lot of shit goes wrong, and kind of the tyranny of good intentions, and when you put power in people who are trying to who might have some kind of noble idea of like making the world a better place, like it leads to a lot of problems. um,
It's too
and
real right now.
yeah, so over time also that just kind of seeped itself in naturally into the way that the story was being told. And yeah, and I'm trying to remember. I think there were like Steins Gate was a big. I think I watched Steins Gate around that time. Was a big ended up being a big influence. And I watched it around 2020-ish. Um, uh, I think Inglorious Bastards was like an influence. Like I watched like long before that, but I think there's parts of that like that kind of formed some of the characters and the scenes and the structure. Um, and yeah, I think that's there's a lot more to it, but that's kind of where it.
Christian is asking, did the movie The Kingdom take
Mm.
inspiration from Maharlika? Do you feel like that you inspired a bit of that TV show?
Um, I don't. Wait, is that the one? Is that the one with the Filipino one? The one with
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
kind of Philippines that didn't get colonized. I haven't watched it. I want to watch it. Um,
We can't
I
comment.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think I mean I don't think so. I mean I would guess not. I feel like it's
Yeah,
an idea that's kind of out there in the ether, right? Like people
yeah.
I think there's
And,
that urge of like what if we were great, or like what if, in that point in time where I think we've had parts of our history where it felt like the Philippines was on top of the world, or like at least
yeah,
was the pearl of the Orient, right? And then we lost it. So I think in some
yeah.
way that's always
That
been
was
in our
like the
DNA, in
30s,
in our
and like
imagination.
yeah, like the 30s to the
Yeah.
like yeah, the 30s to what the 60s. Okay,
Yeah,
hold on.
yeah.
So, well, this engineering, I don't know how this popped up, but
Yeah,
the
the engineer.
engineer is
Yeah, that's
reading
Sai.
it.
He's one of the co-founders of Actang Pinoy.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, I'm Doug Pinoy, dude. Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Rewards, or what's called awards from the people. All right.
yeah.
They're asking, who are your
Mhm.
dream collaborators, be it Filipino or international illustrators? And one second, guys, if you guys know how to do this question thing, please do it. If you don't know how to do this question pop-up thing, just type it in the comments.
Mm.
We'll get to it. Live streams are more fun when you're talking with us. So, yeah, rather than us just kind of like I don't know, doing lectures. So please feel free to jump in the comments and just ask away. So let's get to the engineer is reading. Who are your dream collaborations, be it Filipino or international?
That's a good question. I think also in terms of Filipino, uh, I'd love to as a as a writer. I really like the artists that I've worked with, like as John Ray or Sampai in Thank You and More Power. And I don't know if necessarily I would like want to. I feel like I'd be a bit intimidated to work with like my greats, right? And I feel like I like working with kind of up and coming talent on that front. I do want to kind of other writers, and I don't know in what form it would take. Is Budgetan is someone that I look up to and is a friend. Ronnie Del Carmen I've gotten to know. Like he actually he just like saw Maharlika in an ad and then was messaged us on Facebook saying like, hey, where do I find this? I can't find it on Fully Booked. And so he went to Manila Middle Ground and met with me and John Ray and we talked there and we've been
That's
kind
so
of
dope.
talking about a few things. And so there's some, I think he wants to take a stab in like a tiny piece to the Maharlika, like even like a one page maybe in the Maharlika universe. I think that would be really cool. Um, and then outside of the Philippines, on the animation side, I really want to kind of, we were working on the Maharlika animation, super early stages, and it's, I think that's where I'm trying to find. There are these Filipino artists that are, or even if they're not Filipino, right? But they're kind of these artists who've been able to work in as a junior or mid-level animator in things like Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen and like Free and just like these anime productions. Um, I'm putting together a list of some of them that are, like maybe they're under the radar in Japan, but they have like really strong talent, and I think I wanna
I think we need to make
slowly
a trip to Japan,
pull
dude.
some of those people in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
'Cause like yeah, for I think there's these under people who are underpaid in the Japanese animation industry who just have really really strong talent that we'd love if you can bring them in to be a director or key animator in a Filipino production would be a huge step.
Follow up. Well, I guess a question from Dear Floor is there a comic story you wish you wrote?
That's a good question. That's a good. I think 20th Century Boys, the manga, that one, and then like Saga and Paper Girls. I think those are the ones that are like my kind of stories. I love. It's kind of like this unfolding of a world, and then in the case of 20th Century Boys, like a mystery and conspiracy. But then it's like it's also this group of characters that you just like journey with for a long time. Um, so I think those ones. For Philippines, I'm not sure. I think there's because there's only a few that are kind of in within the same like niche as Maharlika is in, and is the kind of stories that I'm in, or the kind of stories that I like to write, which is like Cat Olan and Just Villanueva. The other sci-fi ones that are like less anime. I started reading Kenneth Hughes' short story collection, the greatest fight of Sunny Granada, and I really like how I like what I've seen so far in those few pages. So maybe less comic, but more of like I think the sci-fi short story kind of stuff is one where I want to I have a few that I've started to write, but that's where I'm like I want to be you know I want to be a bit more like you. I want to be able to kind of like churn out more of those types of um more of that kind of storytelling. And I get to like maybe once or twice every year, I get to kind of carve out time and tap on that like inspiration. But yeah, I'm more from a distance looking up.
Okay, we got questions from Rick, who just discovered our group because he dropped a whole bunch of questions
Yeah,
on the Facebook
I saw
group.
that.
So he was asking,
Yeah, thank you, Rick.
which political events in the Philippine history did you research or live through that influenced your world building for Maharlika?
I don't know if I like pulled on specific things consciously. Um, I do think there yeah that there is kind of that time before the few decades before martial law, um, where the Philippines was kind of economically like more advanced in the rest of the region, and then how that kind of in the decades during martial law, well, depending on who you ask, right? They'll say it was because martial law, or it wasn't related to it, that we lost our economic standing. But I think that era is one that I kind of did a bit more of a deep dive into, uh, and then also kind of some of not specifically in the story that the part of the story that you see in Maharlika. I think the the Philippine Revolution and the years after it, you only see a sliver of in the actual, even when we finish the 6 volumes, like you only see a peak of that. Um, uh, but there's a bit of research I've done there just for the background, kind of world building, how the Katipunan, yeah, the power structure of the Katipunan, uh, the command structure, their uniforms and their ranks and all of that is for just to some degree like fed into the world that followed, and then I have an outline for a prequel game that kind of dives more into the how we got here, and
Yeah.
that one yeah, like so it formed more directly as kind of like research for that.
Let's get to Monica Flores asks, how do you generate your creative ideas?
Yeah, and also Monica, I want to shout out. So Monica is actually, I worked with her in DC for a few years when I was with Ashoka, which is this nonprofit that supports social entrepreneurs. But I think like in the Ashoka world, that just means people who are, whether it's for profit, nonprofit, people who are building new system-changing ideas that are tackling social problems. So that was a really fun, that was a fun 3, 4 years for me. Um, and this is my first time, yeah, first time reconnecting since then. Um, for me, I think I'm very, there's people who create and like writers who do a great job of making new ideas from whole cloth. I think I'm a lot more of like, I get inspired by other stories or like a specific other story that like gets me to think about a different way to tell a story. Um, and and kind of riff off of that, or like a specific something in real life, like a specific moment in real life, and then kind of think of a unique twist on it, and kind of go from there. So usually it's for Maharlika. I mean, I talked already about the inspiration for the overall concept, but in terms of the kind of beat by beat, there's parts that are like definitely homages to other literary works or films. Um, for short stories, I think it's like it can be like a moment as specific as like driving from Cebu to Dumaguete and taking the kind of Roro ferry, and that backing up into the spot in the ferry, and that kind of forms a scene that leads into some kind of supernatural event that like becomes a short story on its own. Even in Maharlika, it's like because I outline everything before I start, like for any story that I just have a hard time doing it otherwise. But like the beat by beat is like something that I usually discover like as I'm writing, and then I'll get stuck on like what's the next thing that needs to happen and how do I do it in an interesting way. And if I can't think of a way to do it in an interesting way, then I have a hard time starting. But like I think there's one chapter in like volume 5 of Maharlika where I was like, oh, like this chapter, like these things need to happen, but I don't know how to do it, like how to, yeah, I didn't have a good twist for it yet. And then I was in Vietnam for that weekend, and there's this place in Hanoi that's like this really slow moving train on the track, and there's like restaurants that are on the train track, and you sit on the train track and then you pull your seat out
Oh,
and
you
like
move when the train
yeah,
comes?
you
Yeah,
move
yeah.
it when the train comes, and then you put it back. And then I was like, oh, this is cool. Like how do you kill someone with this with this slow moving train, like this minor character in a like fairly minor scene. And that was the inspiration that got me to kind of jump back into it for that day, to just like add a little bit more flavor for it.
Okay, I have some questions about Maharlika. Um, so how come Thailand is not part of the kingdom of Maharlika?
Yeah, so without going into specifics of the how, it's because Thailand is the only country in Southeast Asia that's never been colonized.
Yeah.
And so, I think you can pick up, I think, already from the even volume one that after the Philippine Revolution, a lot of the kind of a lot of the colonized states in Southeast Asia ended up kind of banding together under the Maharlikan banner.
Yeah.
But Thailand never had to because they had their sovereignty already. So I think they just
But it's
left to keep their
okay.
independence because it was politically convenient for the the greater powers, right? But they
Yeah.
still were able to keep it.
Yeah. Wait, there was a question. Hold on, there was a good one over here. Who were Mal and Yari inspired by? Are they inspired by any real
Mm.
people?
They're inspired by a lot of kind of different things that come. So I mean, there's definitely a bit of like, there's a bit of like me in each of the characters, also just by like necessity, right? And so I think Mal has a bit of that, and actually like more of it as after I wrote Maharlika, like when I was
Yeah.
writing Maharlika, I was still in Kumu, and
Yeah.
then like now after because I finished writing the whole story in 2022. So now I'm kind of living through the thing that like Mal went through in the story of like having done this thing that people know him for, and then kind of stepping back for several years and being pulled back into things. In his case, 6 years after this major event in his life and in like Maharlika's history. Um, so that was a little bit of like more life following fiction. Uh, and yeah, so it's definitely a bit of me trying to think of for Yari. I think Yari was not really any particular real people, but she was from the older version of the story, and uh
Okay. Oh, quick question again.
yeah.
Okay. So there's a whole bunch of questions actually. I don't know if these people
Mm.
are on that were on here, but there is Monica is here. Is Monica Deer the same as Monica Flores?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so she left a bunch of questions, and then Lizzie Mahusai also left a bunch of questions. But let's get to Lizzie's questions first because she's very, very insightful. Do you know her?
No, I haven't met Lizzie. I've seen all the questions though.
Yeah, she's very, very insightful. Okay, so how does the geopolitics in comics world differ from ours, given that the major wars throughout the 20th century
Mm.
were kickstarted by different incidents scattered around the world, and technological developments didn't come from those places anymore? That's also my follow-up question: is there
Hmm.
are they Betamax or VHS in Maharlika?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, there was another question about how the VHS and Betamax just never happened in Maharlika, or the analog era was kind of just skipped over. Um, so I think it's neither in the Maharlika world.
Uh-huh.
I think it's
That's why
hard
they
to
didn't know
answer the
what the
question
tapes.
without.
So
Yeah,
that's why they
yeah.
didn't know what tapes were. Okay.
It's hard to answer the question without spoiling
It's the book
some
club, dude. All these
things.
people just
No,
spoil it.
spoiling future, like
Oh, okay, okay.
volume four. Um, but yeah, I do think that I think if you imagine that the Philippines, was able to discover the same inventions in a much shorter period of time, um, and then off of that foundation had a lot more influence over the development of the past 100 years. I think that's high level, like what happened in the Maharlika era. I think I can't say like why exactly, and I mean, and people can probably piece it together, especially by the time you get to volume three. But yeah, I think
Oh,
that's a great
speaking
question. I
of,
think that is one that we'll kind of
yeah.
tackle as the story goes.
Speaking of, when does volume three drop? You could do a plug right now. When does
Yeah,
volume three
volume three
drop?
drops. Well, we're launching in Manila on January 31, so very soon. And then we'll get it over to Hot Tropic. We'll send the files over to Hot Tropics also, and so it can follow pretty soon after as well.
Well, at least for us, I'm targeting what you call it launch, WonderCon launch in March.
WonderCon.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So we're,
So
we're
January
targeting WonderCon.
31,
Yeah.
Manila. I want to do a few like events in maybe Cebu and Dumaguete after that. Um,
Yeah.
and then WonderCon March for Volume Three. But yeah, I think yeah, I guess the closest I can do to answering it is yeah, I think what you can infer maybe is that yeah, the past 100 years of inventions like all kind of happened, but like within the Philippines, in the late 1800s
I
to,
think I
to
know
early
where it's going
1900s,
already.
and then yeah. I
Yeah.
think you can piece it together, and then you'll get your answers in the next couple of volumes. You'll get the
Yeah,
clear
it's
answers
a
in the
little
next
bit
couple of
of like
volumes.
is
Um,
it a little bit of like Back to the Future logic, like with the
Yeah,
betting?
maybe yeah, a bit of that. And then I think the other thing I can share is actually that scene where they're listening to the cassette tapes. That
Yeah.
was the first scene that like that was the first like Maharlika scene that ever uh at least in my head, right? And so I mean I wrote it later, but it was that like kind of the scene like the dramatic irony of like the reader knows but the characters don't, of like,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
readers
but what
know
is
that the readers know this music, the readers know this technology, the readers know that this is like, very popular. This is like in our like we grow up with it in the Philippines, but the characters don't. It's completely alien to them, and that was like where the story really like started to be built out, and the rest kind of wrapped around it.
what happened with what you call it? Oh yeah, so what like what was the inspiration for the song selections? Because I know that like all your tracks, I
Mm,
mean it's the whole story is very tied into music, right? Where even
mm,
each issue is called a track, and there's a your
yeah,
chapter songs are named after like very popular songs.
yeah. I think so. One part of it is like um I think it's two things. One is, or three things maybe. One is just like, thematically, right? Uh, kind of as the story goes, what are uh, like the songs kind of are match in some way the development of the story, and so there's some parts of the song selection that kind of are just are that. There's one piece of it that's the Fly Me to the Moons, the Frank Sinatra stuff is like what are things that like every Filipino in our world would know, that they would uh kind of just hitting that point um on the head in terms of like the reader knows that this is something everybody should know, but the characters don't. Um and then I think more the third piece is probably just the more for most of it is just like my own like playlists and songs that I like. And I think my Akira's music taste is probably my music taste, just by way of that.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Mm.
Khalil asked, "Did you consciously struggle to escape the template nationalist narrative of victimhood?" Well,
Hmm. Interesting. I think it's like you struggle to escape the template nationalist narrative of victimhood.
but I don't know if that is a national narrative. For
Hmm. I think it's so I think part of the Maharlikan the narrative the national identity kind of narrative of Maharlika, right, is a bit like American exceptionalism of like this is the greatest country and the leader of the free world and the yeah the kind of leading edge of freedom. So I think there's that side of it, but then it starts to translate into um, you know authoritarianism and dictatorship and corruption under the cloak of that. And so then it becomes a question of like, are we really, is this even worth it? Is this like, do should can Filipinos actually run our own country well? And I think maybe that's where it starts to go back into the sense of like of victimhood. And I think a lot of it probably you can assume is rooted um in the same as our world, like the systems that were put in place during the colonial era, and the people who were in power there becoming the people who are in power after, regardless of whether or not we're kind of powerful and independent. Um, so I think there's some sense of, I mean, maybe I think that's where I can see the kind of victimhood narrative come from, is like, and maybe like fatalistic, uh, you know, uh, even if we had everything, we'd still be stuck in the shit, right? Or that sentiment. But then I think a lot of the story is also like kind of the struggle of that versus like, okay, we can actually put in the hard work to make this work, and that is worth fighting for. So I think, yeah, I think it's not a definitive answer, but I think there is kind of that
Yeah.
the tension with that. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
between the
I
U.S. and
think
our own country. But I think a lot of
yeah, I
it
think
is
you can
also
already
kind of
see it in the
mirroring. It's
comments.
also kind of
Like,
mirroring the U.S. now, right?
yeah, yeah,
Especially with like the Venezuela kind of developments, like that kind of
yeah.
uh,
But yeah, I guess it all really comes down to the leadership, right? Like, it's like, man, it gets really crazy. Like, I mean, I think this was also the most popular prompt that you had when you had the author prompts.
mm,
Just for a bit of a background for all you guys joining us here on Instagram, we tried doing the Bible Book Club on Facebook, but it doesn't look like people that read books are on Facebook anymore. So I think in the
yeah,
future we're going to move everything back. We're gonna try to figure out how to do this on a cooler, more interactive way on Instagram. So we're just going to have to do some more um, I guess innovating on running a book club
mm,
online. But yeah, so going back to what I was saying was the Rexy's author discussion prompt too, which was the most which had the most comments on it. The question was, if the Philippines had all the wealth
mm.
and power in the world, but but none of our other problems were fixed, would Filipinos be better or worse off? Man, there was quite a
Mm.
few there's quite a few viewpoints on there, but I mean the general consensus was it'd be the same. Like what you read through these, like what did you think about the some of the discussion that was happening on this thread?
Yeah. I mean, I agree with the sentiment, or a big part of me agrees with the sentiment. And I feel like that also is kind of the picture that a lot of the how Maharlika looks um agrees with that sentiment. Um, but at the same time, it's also like, if bad people are in power and things are shitty, would you rather the kind of accountability and the thing that, the forces, the things that are causing it be closer to home or farther away, right? And I think there is kind of more room for hope if the thing if the enemy is closer, and like if it's crooked Filipinos that are primarily the cause of our problems, then you kind of know where to it's clear where to target them versus if it's like this broader American Chinese power struggle that we're stuck in between, um, uh, you know, kind of the bad sides of capitalism that are mostly not, the Philippines doesn't have too much control over. I do think that if you know if the antagonists are closer to home, then it's also easier for us to hold them accountable. So I think there is that, right?
I don't know, man. This
Uh,
it's been how many days? Who's gone to jail so far?
yeah. No, I mean, no, in theory at least, I
Yeah.
don't know how it plays out,
I don't,
but
so for the
uh,
Philabs, I don't know who's following Philippine politics, but ever since like the Ghost Projects was outed, everyone knows there's billions of dollars or billions of pesos missing, but still no one has
right,
been but still no one
right, right,
has been
right.
prosecuted yet. So or yeah, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's like kind of yeah, no one's kind of been prosecuted yet. And it's when was this? It's came out September, I think.
Mm,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, it's
yeah.
still, I mean, and yeah.
So
Um,
yeah. Geez, dude, politics sucks right now. Okay.
yeah, I mean, seeing at least we get to see the U.S. the American politics from a bit of a distance, which is I think it's scarier over there when you're in it.
Yeah,
But
because
then
I
the
think it's like
Philippine, yeah,
yeah, I feel like yeah, because it's like the population here is armed, so
mm,
it's like
right, right, right,
it's kind of it's I'm like oh man, this is kind of crazy over here right now. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay.
I mean, at the
Uh,
end, it is like it's easier to like shoot the dictator if they're in the same country as you, right? And so that's the, I feel that's the one plus side of uh, if we had the same problems, but we were the power was a little closer to home. Um, yeah, no, it's an interesting question. I'm glad that got a lot of people.
yeah.
You got a lot of people jumping in.
Did you want to highlight any of the other prompts and any other conversations that you saw and any of the let me look back. Oh, Nathan said let's not run our country. It's the right word is rule. What up, Nathan? Um,
Yeah,
yeah, it's that's what it is. We're kind of in that ruler. Monica is asking, is there a Maharlika playlist?
we're working on one. There's one that we have. It's not like a fully thought out play. It's just a bunch of songs that we threw in there for events. I do want to make an official one at some point.
Oh,
I used to make
nice.
when I was in high school. I used to make like these mix CDs that like I make like custom packaging and liner notes and like the
Oh,
super
were
intentional like
you
track
were you
lists and
what
that
you
kind
call
of.
it? Were you Nick? Were you Nick from Nick and Nora's playlist?
I don't know. I haven't watched it, but
You
I
ever
would
watched that
imagine a
movie?
little bit like that. No, I've never watched it.
I can totally picture you as like a Michael Cera guy making like mixtapes for girls.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So I want to get to that. I want to make one that's like, you know, like intentionally crafted. And then Danny, a Conjuring of Magic and on Instagram, one of our readers also
Uh-huh.
made a Maharlika playlist that I think I'll probably share at some point on the Maharlika account. I haven't had a chance to sit down and listen to it yet, but it's kind of her version of or songs that kind of help build the world of Maharlika for her.
Oh
So I
wow.
also want to see kind of a bit more of that.
That's wow, yeah, dude. The Maharlika fans in the Philippines are I love it that they're all cosplaying and like it's like
Yeah,
they got all the salutes now. That's pretty cool.
right. Yeah, we
I
got
can't wait.
lucky, I think.
Can we announce what's happening on the 31st, or is that fine here?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you guys are in Makati or in Manila, the launch party for Maharlika Volume 3 is happening at Caravan, which is like way down Pasong Tamo.
Yeah, near
Uh,
Caravan. It's like a couple, like a blockish.
okay, near Caravan. What's the name of the place? June Studio or New Studio?
New NHUE. New,
Yeah, New Studio. Y-
new
Yeah,
creative. It's a studio. Yeah.
yeah. What time is that?
That one is, we have the place from 1 to 5. I think 1 to 2 will probably just be setting up the chairs and stuff. So 2 to 5
Okay.
is
and
for
and
the actual event.
everybody and everybody in the Philippines, Hot Tropiks, I'm going to be there too. So I want to meet you guys. I really want to see like the Maharlika fandom in person because it's so funny. Like when Rexy brought this to me the first time, we were like sitting on a beach and or we're in the middle of pandemic. I remember it was the middle of pandemic, and then we were talking about it over a beach, and then we published, and then the volume one wasn't even done yet, and I had already moved to the U.S. And then now to see where
Mhm.
from the initial idea when you first like brought it up to where it is now, I'm like, oh snap! I want to like I'm really excited
Yeah.
to see what it's become. What has been like the coolest thing that that the fans have shown you?
I think when we got our first cosplayers, that was like my like whoa kind of that was a big whoa moment for me. I think there's I mean Dave is here, also
Yeah.
one of our readers, and like he made a TikTok video on kind of on Maharlika that I didn't know about it all for a couple of weeks, but then it looked like it got like a thousand some likes and a bunch of people in the comments arguing about like, oh, that would never happen, like that's you know the yeah, wishful thinking. But it was fun. It was a fun. Like it got a good amount of engagement, and it was somebody who was a reader that kind of just put that out there. I think the um uh there was one early on actually. There was a group of students that whom we were working with on some game stuff, and then they were working on a Maharlika game. And that was like part of the. I mean, they didn't have to choose Maharlika, but that was part of the program, and so it's not so much like of a surprise. But one of those people like made a Google Doc that was like 20 plus full pages long of, I think more longer than that, of like their kind of theorized version of the Maharlika timeline from
But,
from ni- from 1896 to present. So I thought that was really cool. Um, there's definitely others I haven't been able to think of yet, but it's been fun to see the fans start to like take the world into their own.
well, Dave's asking if there was a live action adaptation, who would be playing Mal, Yari, or any of the characters?
Um, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. It's always been anime in my head, so I'm not sure. But I'm curious. Like, I don't know if Dave, if you have any fan casts, or if anyone has fan casts.
I don't know. I don't know anybody with white hair did. In my head, I was thinking like, how did Yari end up with I don't know why that was a thing that was in my head,
Yeah,
but it's like then I
yeah,
kept on
yeah.
thinking about Korea.
I think yeah, I think she died. In my head she dies it, but then like we had a flashback of her as a kid, and it was like it would be weird to show her with different hair so people wouldn't know, like people wouldn't recognize that it's her, so we also had to keep it the same
Yeah.
light color, and it was like, wait, but then did she like start dyeing it when she, so I don't, I think you just have to chalk it up to it's just
So
for the
so
yeah,
it
it's
was
just
just
anime logic.
it was just a John Ray choice. There is no
Yeah.
hair color. Or there's no reason behind the hair color.
Yeah, even the because she it was more like, yeah, it was more like platinum blonde, and then it was just like reflected with blue lights. But then I think
Yeah,
because that was the main image, it became that her hair was bluish.
yeah.
And then so we just kind of stuck with that because that was the, you know, the image the image in everyone's head.
The OB saying, please share the Google Doc that you just talked about. It would be it's cool. I can't wait. I think I've met OB before, but I'm excited to meet OB again. I think I met him last
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
few
Obi
years
is
ago.
great.
Yeah, we did meet, right? We met him at the Manila book or the not MIBF, but the other one, the PBF, the Philippine Book Fair, right?
Where could was that also the same one where we met Gerald?
No, but yes, I thought
No,
OB was. I
yeah.
don't know if OB was there, but I'm a
I
fan
don't
of
remember
OB.
because I remember reading Gerald. I know some of the same people were there, but I didn't know you all at the time, and so
Yeah.
so Obi might have been there.
Yeah, I'm excited to meet everyone. I guess okay, we're wrapping up on our hour right now. Is there anything else you wanted to cover, or is there any things that we should look out for, or what to expect in Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4, and 5? Since I heard you say all of it was written already.
Yeah, yeah. Volume six. It's 6 volumes. It's all the script has been all written since 2022. I did a recent kind of revision of the last 2 volumes, but for the most part, it's, you know, I think there are going to be some changes here and there. But it's all, you know, structurally baked in. Um, 3 and 4 is really where, you know, kind of I would say 3 is where a lot of the big questions get tackled. Either the big questions get answers or they get asked for the first time in volume 3, and then kind of 4 building on top of that. 3 was the most fun for me to write. I feel like I think that was the one where it was just, you know, a lot of things that we've been loading up in the first 2 volumes kind of click into place in volume 3. Um, and so I'm excited for people to experience that. Um, and yeah, and that's kind of a full story up to from volume 1 to 6. But I have been kind of thinking of, you know, is there a, if this is a book one, if volume 1 to 6 is a book one, is there a book two that could follow its own like standalone story? I want to say yes, and I do want to kind of work on that, but I just don't have eh,
There's going to be
that
like a volume,
full
the
story yet.
compendium 1 through 6. Is it gonna
Um,
is it gonna look like the giant One
yeah,
Piece?
yeah, yeah. Like Maharlika book one would be uh yeah, would be volume 1 to 6, right? And then like you can have a book two later. That's a another kind of standalone because it's really the size of like Saga. The first half of Saga is like around that. I think we'll end up at around that size for, and I have that in like a compendium of what's chapter 1 to 50 something of Saga.
Obi's asking, did you change something on your script based on fan reception of the characters like Akira?
Hmm. Maybe a little bit, maybe a little bit with Akira. Um, or I think like yeah, I think we really want to make sure that we you know do Akira's story, do it justice.
Mhm.
Since he has the biggest kind of fan base. Um, I feel like a lot of it more for me is it was more from my own kind of experience of like writing it and getting surprised by certain characters and being like, oh, this is interesting. Like Jisoo wasn't even a character in the first like outline, and then we did the like genre said let's start with a prologue, and then uh she kind of came from that like 6 page prologue and then became a major part of the main story, and then a lot of the major points in the story she's a pivotal part of. So it's more, yeah, like those kind of
Wait, one,
those serendipities during the writing
I, I had
and improvising based on them.
I had a weird question. I don't know if the only one that
Yeah,
got mixed up on it. So there's a character named Jojo, right?
yeah, yeah,
One of the Aguila, right? And then
yeah.
he mentions another one. Was he saying Iho or Hijo?
Oh, he's saying Iho, Iho. Yeah.
Iho. So it's not there's not a character named
No,
Hijo
no.
or Hijo. Okay, because it was like right next to each
Hi,
other.
Joe.
Jojo,
Yeah,
Hijo.
that's good to know. The other one
Okay,
actually, there's like
because it
not
was
so
it
much
was all
reader, but
bolded out too. It was like Jojo was bolded out and then Iho was bolded out. So I was like, is that another character?
oh, okay, good to know. Yeah,
Okay. Hey, Nathan, are you still here? Nathan, press one if you're still here. If you want to jump up,
yeah. Or
Nathan.
if anyone wants to
Yeah.
jump up, I guess.
Yeah, does anybody want to jump up? I just wanted to say, I just wanted to announce just our next book. We're going to be doing
Mm,
Suspicious Activity by Nathan
yes.
Kayanan. Yeah, if you guys, it's a bit of Phil Am Asian American gangster story. Think of I don't know how to say it. It's just like a story that's been kind of like if you're Filipino American, you kind of knew about this world, but nobody's ever really dove it. And Nathan he wrote and illustrated the story. And Nathan is also a writer for DC Comics. You check out his new Christmas special just came out. So we were really happy that he worked with us to publish. We were really happy that he worked with us to publish Suspicious Activity, Volume
Yeah.
One. So we're going to be working on that soon. But we'll announce it online. But we just got to think about how to do this whole like book club online type thing because we're gonna be going cross Pacific. But if anybody wants to jump
Yeah.
up, please
Yeah,
jump in or
Suspicious
request.
Activity is a great, but it was my favorite like 2025 release. I haven't read like a ton of 2025 releases, but that was the one that really stuck with me in terms of it's a really fun read, but then also in term not just the story, but like the way it's written and the way it plays with the form and the medium. And it also just like gets you really invested like two characters in particular, and I think in a way that I feel like I haven't in a while, where I was like,
Yeah,
okay, I really want these two people to
it's a very
to have a
relatable
happy ending.
story. Yeah, but yeah. So for the Philippines folks, we'll work with Nathan and Raygun to get the story out there, or a few other stories. But yeah, Dave. Dave says, "Don't stop the,
Yeah, thank you so
don't
much,
stop."
Dave.
Yeah, Floor suspicious activity. We'll do that next. Maybe I'll holler at Floor. 'Cause Floor always has these great ideas. I need to figure out how to make a definitely not do it over a month and a half, or definitely probably condense it down to
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
only a few weeks. But yeah, we got to figure out how to make a more poppin' book club. But yeah, Rexy, thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you in Philippines in a couple of weeks, man.
Yeah, see
Um,
you soon. And
yeah,
yeah, and please come. We'll post the event details I think later today on our side. And if y'all can come, uh,
just add us as
not
a
to see me and John Ray, but Angelo
yeah.
will be there too.
Yeah, add
Uh,
us as a add us as a co what's that thing, the cross post, whatever, just add us
oh yeah,
as
yeah, yeah,
a
collab,
one of the
yeah,
things there. Yeah, so we'll get so that we'll get more people. And then yeah, Rick, dude, Rick was just in
yeah.
the
Thank you,
Philippines
Rick.
last year, but I don't know if you had a chance to meet him, but he was just there. But Rick's been one of our
Oh,
supporters. Yeah.
thanks for jumping in. And you said Rick, you're working on do you say you're working on your own stories also on the chat?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it? Supernatural short stories.
Nice.
Yeah,
Rick, Rexy needs more stories for the Philippines. So,
yeah,
and Filipino creators, and we need more stories for the U.S. So we're
yeah,
gonna go. So I'll see
definitely.
you guys in Manila in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, thank you everyone. It matters a lot, like kind of reading and supporting for all of us, like not just Maharlika, but like any Filipino kind of living Filipino creator who's making something that you like at this point is like the industry's small enough that again, like every person matters, right? And I've always said that was something that's really cool as a reader before jumping into as a creator is like, the Hemingways of our time to the Stephen Kings of our time are all like people that you can reach out to, and if you're a supporter, like they're 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 yeah, like we're super grateful for your support, and you can like live side by side with people. Hopefully, will be remembered in the few generations after us. We're all small and kind of broke and doing our best.
Keep it locked on Hot Tropics for more Filipino pop culture and books news.